What's up?
County.
Another day, another dollar, or in this case, another day of us rambling about bowling. Hey, what's up, Nico? Don't think I've seen you in the chat before. Glad to catch him on. So, yeah, it's the roads are finally starting to be like 100% clear. I think I can finally get my car washed and not worry about getting like all of the salt back on it the very next day. Because last weekend and into the first part of this week, for those that aren't in the Midwest, we got a lot of snow, or we got some snow, and then it got really cold. So like we haven't had snowfall since like Monday, and there's still several inches of snow on the ground right now.
Yeah.
So it's finally starting to melt a little bit, but we're getting there. So yeah, we are somehow almost 2/3 of the way through this league already, which time has absolutely flown. I've been working doing this except today. Nice. Well, days off are good. Yeah, I guess you want to jump in to talk about last week. It felt like a mixed bag for me personally, but I guess we can kind of jump in and talk about it.
Yeah. Jaden again gets the consistency award.
Yeah.
He's definitely back to form.
Yep.
And of course it was only, I mean, a couple rough weeks doesn't really mean she fell off or anything. It just, I think it was just around the holidays and traveling so much for the college and preparing for big tournaments.
And she'd had a bunch of stuff going on at work too, at the restaurant at Fusion.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think we talked about this on one of these shows a few weeks ago of like a league season is really weird because it's a marathon of a bunch of sprints. Just because you have a couple of bad sprints doesn't mean you've lost the marathon. So
yeah.
So it's the sum of a bunch of smaller individual interactions, more or less, and so it's just kind of maximize each interaction and trust that the outcome is where you want it to be. So
yep. Noah had an oddly rough week, and I can't even really tell you what happened.
It was I'm blaming Noah's struggles purely on the fact that we were on the low end and it was freezing outside, and they were just weird in general. Like he didn't even, like I said, he didn't even throw. I mean, he pulled he pulled 2 10-pins and chopped a 6-10, if I remember right. So I mean, those, it's gonna happen, but the rest of it, like, I mean, you give him those, that still only gets him into the 560s, and it felt like he pulled a lot better than that.
Yeah, and
he was basically all alone out there too.
Well, and the other Jaden. Yeah, the kind of telling thing is too that he won his series point with a 530.
This is true, although I'm not entirely sure why Wedditch was throwing that high speed. It did not look very good. But.
Yeah, it didn't look very good. But then again, that's their low set on the year.
Probably is,
150 sticks. I mean, because I think that we looked at it last week, and I think their other low set was 2450 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm checking right now.
2430 or something. So
they had a 2425 in week 10.
And
then this. Yeah. So that's their low set by a lot.
Yeah. So again, they were just kind of squirrely, and especially giving the ball any kind of angle.
Yeah.
And that, they're throws it hard. Jerry doesn't have a ton of revs, but he's
got the Frankie kind of flop slow wheel trick that he can do though.
Yeah, he does have to give the pocket away though.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, I think threw a brand new X3 all night, which looked okay-ish, but I mean, I don't, like you said, getting left was not all that fun. I threw I think I used my trend too, pretty much the entire night, and went 250, 240, and then 3 splits and 5 frames, game 3 for 180. So that that definitely stung, especially considering the splits were not generally atrocious shots, and it was one of those nights of just max penalty for me. It felt like on every miss, which was frustrating, but I mean, at the same time, they didn't start the lanes didn't start super nice, and I think we kind of knew going in that the right side was going to get ugly going against Ottawa, because that's kind of what usually happens with them.
Yeah, you kind of figured that, and then you started further right than you normally do, and that looked fine, but at some certain points you realize it's like, well, I can't stay here forever.
Yeah.
But they had also proven that if you move inside, that's just terrible. So I'm not really sure you had many options, but again, hindsight's 20/20 if you sit there and think about it, because Jaden had a nice shot, down the side, and it really hadn't changed on you because nobody else had been there. But you start thinking about it's like, okay, eventually I'm going to have to move.
Yeah.
And if I have to move after they've really trashed him inside, then I'm just going to get trapped and have nothing to do the last game. So I'd better
try and
make an adjustment and try to figure it out. But
yeah, and that was kind of the gamble that I took. But I was already throwing my weakest ball, and I felt like I was running out of ways to get it to see the lane right from straighter. And even with that, I was still kind of starting to catch up to where Chris and Jared had started the night.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was very conscious of that, of like, okay, we get to the 10th frame of game 2, and it's like, okay, my next move is not going to be like, if I 4-pin, it's not going to be 2 boards, it's going to be 10.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to move further left. And so then it's just kind of like, well, just make the big jump and trust it. And then the right lane on my side, the mids just completely went away, and I got screwed by that twice. And then I think I 2-8-10'd on a okay-ish shot that shouldn't have struck, but I didn't think deserved a 2-8-10 either. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was. If I had gone to my top speed when I made that jump, I think it would have had a little bit better look. I threw a couple shots with it on that pair after, and it seemed to be closer to something that would have actually been comfortable to at least not split with. But
yeah,
I'm hindsight and the trend 2 looked so good to start the night that it was like, I can't get away from this, was kind of my general thinking. So.
Mm-hmm.
And then I genuinely thought you were going to shoot like 830.
Well, I did too, but the problem is that we bowl for 3 hours and it was cold.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and drank water the whole night, and so, as it tends to do, my hand shrunk, and I just got into the last game. I doubled to start the game off, and then I just started feeling like I was losing at my backswing, and I just couldn't hang on to the ball. And I think this is one of those things where I should probably, it's one of those things where I could have added tape.
Probably should have.
I'm just going to have to take it all back out again. This is my problem, is that I go through a frickin' roll, which I guess ultimately doesn't really matter. I'd rather go through tape than just say, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to shoot 180 this game, because I don't feel like adding tape. But the problem is I really can't do a whole lot for my fingers either, because my hand shrinks in general. And so then I feel like I can't hang on to it, but I also feel like I can't catch it. And so I need to figure out something else to
maybe shim a little bit of the back of the fingers or something.
Yeah, I could do that. Or what I probably need to do is, instead of drinking water, I need to bring like a protein shake or something, so that I have something that I'm still, my metabolism goes so fast that if I don't eat for 5 hours, it's weird. But yeah, and it really only happens when it's cold out. That's the big thing, is it's a little cold, and just
Eric could be taped to the ball. Luke doesn't put tape on his thumb.
Yeah, there's no way I'd be able to hang on to it.
Yeah,
absolutely zero way. I need all the friction in there that I can get.
I'm the same way. I tried, because I ripped the back knuckle of my thumb. Lost like 2 or 3 layers of skin on Sunday in match play at Springfield doubles. And immediately after that, I tried some tape on the back of my thumb, and that lasted about 3 days before I realized I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, there's just no prayer.
Yeah, it felt like I was flying out of it so much that I was then having to claw at it with my thumb to not have it fly off, and then that's just a whole cascading set of issues and crappy ball reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
yeah,
and I could do something like go to interchangeables, but I'm on staff with Turbo, so I'd have to use switch grips, and I'm not using switch grips, so I'll figure something else out.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think just being a little more aggressive, like burning a 20-cent piece of tape is worth it to go from 730 to 780.
The problem
Like,
is
that's
that
a
I've been
valid
using
trade-off.
problem is that I've been using storm tape, and if you put a piece of storm tape, storm black in the back is what I normally use. If it spends more than a week in there, then all of a sudden it gets all gummy and it disintegrates. And so trying to just replace pieces of storm tape after you've used them is a freaking nightmare. I will have to I just have to take everything out and then buzz the hole to freshen it back up or put,
fix it when you're done then. Or fix it back when you're done.
Well, and see, that's the thing is I'd have to go home and I'd have to spend 5 or 10 minutes fixing it and putting everything back the same way.
Just take the piece of tape out you put in and problem solved, though, right?
No, because you go to take the tape out.
It's sitting there for 2 hours, not a week.
Well, yeah, but all the tape that's under it, I would have to replace every single piece of tape. So if I have normally I keep 2 or 3 pieces of tape in there. Taking one of those pieces of tape out is not an option. It all has
we're getting you some tape that works.
So I would have
this is happening.
Yeah. And if I go down a bit with my thumb size, it's a little too tight.
Then it's not a bit size problem. Yeah.
It's not a bit size problem. It's a just need to use not shitty tape problem.
Yeah. All right. Well,
anyway,
that's the goal. Yeah. So I mean, 733 for you, another unfortunate way to get there, but honestly, another really solid night overall.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's 6 or 7 sets of 730 plus in the last 10 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't really care how I do. Obviously, you don't want to shoot 180 and back into it, but at the same time, I'll take 730. If you tell me if I can walk in the building and have 730 every week, no matter what it looks like, I'm not asking questions.
Yeah,
I can figure this stuff out.
I'm dreaming of shooting 730 right now, to be honest. No, I was looking at some of the league statistics before we came on the air, and I think I've shot under average 7 out of the last 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's 2 7s in the last 8 weeks or something like that. So it's just kind of I haven't had disaster weeks. I think a part of why I'm still holding where I am average wise is my disaster weeks are 660 instead of 620, and so realistically, I'm trying to kind of stay patient and remember that it is a marathon of sprints, and if my bad sprints can be better than most, then the good ones are still going to come and their hits are still going to come, and let's just kind of maximize those when we get them.
Because I mean, I think looking at this too is that this team that we bowled took 21 from us last time.
Yeah.
They took 21 from us last time, and they were in first a good portion of the half. They were in first for 5-6 weeks near the beginning of last season, and then we finally overtook them, but they still stayed in the top 3 until the very end.
They actually did finish third.
Okay, so
first half, I believe, or no, fourth. Sorry. 3rd or 4th, somewhere in there. Yeah.
And I think obviously looking at their scores, that pair was just a mess.
Yeah.
And so I think getting what we could get, I think getting what we could get worked out really well.
Getting 23.5 when you and I both backed into it on set, and Noah just had every possible thing go wrong, even if it wasn't his fault. That's against the Ottawa kids. That is a huge win.
Yeah, and Jaden just kind of anchored everything. So
yeah, Mercury. This is a scratch league, so there is no handicap. The draft is actually really fun though, and Luke and I'll have some more. We'll probably be talking about that a little more as we get closer to the end of this season and start winding up for next year. Is each round of so it's a 3-round draft. and each round of the draft is in order low to high on team average, essentially. So like I will most likely have the highest. Unless I completely fall apart or someone else goes
Yeah, there's
absolutely
nobody else
bananas.
that's really the next closest person's
Yeah.
what, 235?
Yeah, my lead's like about 6 pins on second right
Yeah,
now for average, so I'm probably going to have the
over
last pick of the first round.
yeah, with
So
13 weeks left, 13, 14 weeks.
14 weeks, yeah. So I'll probably have the last pick of the first round. But then, like, let's say, just for the sake of hypothesis, Luke is averaging 228 right now,
Mm-hmm.
228 point something with decimals. Let's say he drafts a 205, a 220 with his first pick, and then me at 241, I draft a 201, a 200 average bowler with my first pick. I
Mm-hmm.
would then get to pick before Luke in the second round because my
Yeah.
team average is lower than his.
Mm-hmm.
And so it reorders every round. And so there's a lot of strategy that kind of goes into how you play that. Um, it'll be Luke's actually going to be in a pretty similar position to where I was in the draft this year. I think he's sitting 10th in the league in average right now. I had the 14th pick last year out of 18 teams, and I'll probably have the 18th pick this year. So I expect the board to look a little different, but there's a lot of strategy and kind of things you can do to change your position relative to the teams around you. So.
Yeah, where I'm at, I can go one way or the other. Look, like if I see a good value pick further down, I can take them and then have a higher pick in the second round. And while you are going to lose a lot of people off the board that you would want to get if you had the opportunity, you also have the last pick of the first round and you get to do the math.
Yeah.
So you can pretty well figure if you keep track of who everybody else took and what their average was, then you can see, okay, if I take this person, then I'm going to pick here.
Yeah. So I will have 100% control over where I pick in the second round, essentially.
Yeah, over both of your picks. Yeah. Both your first two picks, really. So
more than likely, yeah, and it depends on. Like this year, there weren't a whole lot of guys on the board that were averaging above the lowest captain average.
Yeah.
Versus the year I came into the league, there were a lot more guys that were above the lowest captain average, and so that has a huge impact on first round. Eric, for people not drafted, they're essentially available to sub, kind of similar to how we do it for Panda Pack League. And the sub rules are a little bit different in this league because it is scratch and not handicap. But yeah, if you're not drafted, then you're welcome to sub on anybody who asks you to bowl for them. And
yeah,
otherwise, hope to see you next year. Pretty much.
A lot of people end up in the other league that's down at the high end. So we have it's a full house on Thursday nights, and most of the time, people that don't get they put in their name for the scratch league, but if they don't get drafted, they just bowl that other league.
Yeah.
Or they're just kind of available to sub or to fill in if somebody loses a team member or something like that.
Yeah. Or like that's what Hunter Cole ended up doing this year. He wasn't even. He wasn't even on the board. Goodness. Wasn't even on the board, but ended up taking his wife's place on the team she got drafted to. So, yeah. So I guess moving along, got a rematch for us. Looking ahead to this week or tonight, I guess we're bowling Mike Tennyson's team. Which when we bowled them in the first half, that was the weekend of KC Open.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, I had a fantastic day. I believe it was 30 clean. It was either 29 or 30 clean for my second of the two 800s I've shot in this league. And then
Well, see, what we did
so I remember we flipped trying to play the average game, which ended up washing out.
Mike had Tennyson hadn't had a very good year at all up to that point. Yeah. And Anderson had such a high book that it just didn't make any sense to not try to play the average game.
Yeah, and I think that's going away this time. Like I'm just rolling. I'm planning on us rolling as is for tonight.
Yeah, I'd say we just go with it because looking at the averages now, they've kind of equalized a little bit.
Yeah, and Tennyson's missed like 5 out of the last 8 weeks too. So
I
don't know. What's going on there, But yeah, obviously a really good night bowling against these guys. Last time it was not on this pair. We are on 15 and 16, which is currently the second lowest scoring pair. So we're going from lowest scoring to second lowest scoring by what is realistically a pretty decent margin at this point in the year. With that said, the 2 weeks we bowled on 15 and 16 in the first half, 58 and 6 points record. I think that's probably, I don't know, I think that's pretty decent.
Yeah.
So if we can keep that going, then I think we'll be all right. But Tennyson's team has only caught this pair once so far, and I took 26 and a half off of Russ's crew back in week 16. So that was kind of a little later in the first half. But realistically, it's anyone's guess as to what could happen. It is a little bit warmer today. I think it's going to stay above freezing for a good chunk of the day and probably just be dipping below that by the time we start league, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts things. But 15 and 16 is one of the pairs that gets less affected by cold weather because it's a little further away from the doors.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of, it'll be interesting in that sense to see how things progress. For you, unless there's a sub, you're going to be all alone again. So
Mm-hmm.
if you turn 550 and don't get to 800 this time, I'll mercilessly mock you.
Yeah.
With that said, something I've also really noticed, and I think this is very interesting, is Tennyson's team. I don't care what pair you're bowling on. Otherwise, in the league, if you're going to go practice on Tennyson's pair after they're done, it's going to be another 5 left off of any other pair in the building on the right side of the lane.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I don't understand why. While above freezing, yeah, kind of crazy, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why exactly because there's not a massive amount of rev rate or anything on the team, but they always like the lanes always hook a ton.
I think they all kind of it's kind of because they play in the same place. Like none of them.
It might be track development more than anything else.
Yeah, actually. Mike Anderson's really the only one that will get deep, but he only does that. He's got a higher speed, and so he really only does that if he has to. But otherwise, Mason Jacobson kind of play a little bit further out. Tennyson's just a smidge inside of them, and Anderson's even just maybe a smidge inside of him or on top of him or whatever. And so I think they really just beat up the track.
Yeah,
because it's not a bunch of rev rate. Anderson spins it up a little bit. Tennyson doesn't have.
Tennyson just goes plunk with a TDX and calls it good. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that actually kind of makes sense. So. Yeah, I mean, I think that track development might be why. Wait, what else did I use when you bowled against them? Let me look. I think I used. Oh yeah, NV Tour into my Ocean vibe last time. Okay, so that actually. Maybe I bring my nuclear cell tonight. Interesting. Not to pickle on that. I just put fresh grips in it too. Yeah, saying they kind of developed a little more in the mid lane. That is actually a pretty good point. That just track development, but like it doesn't get ugly. It just hooks a lot. I think is kind of the main thing with following Tennyson's team. So, yeah, as far as bowler to bowler matchups, they've been running with Matt Austin, Anderson, Tennyson pretty much the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect them to run that again. I know we're going to be running the same lineup again. Jaden, Noah, Yumi. That's pretty much the rest of the year is locked in for that at this point, barring anything truly catastrophic. So, I mean, realistically, I want to say I like our chances. I like our chances better on the top half than the bottom half of the matchups. The bottom just kind of depends on which version of the mics show up.
Yeah.
More than anything else is kind of that's kind of how I'm thinking about it is, they both could struggle and shoot 6.0 to 650. They both have the potential to shoot 750 plus.
Yeah.
So they've both Anderson bowls collegiately. Tennyson, I think he pretty much just bowls this league, but he's been around the block and he knows what he's doing, and he's very good at playing his game and striking. So,
yeah. So, and I drafted him one year, and that's just kind of he doesn't mess with stuff.
Yeah.
He kind of goes right to the well and just gets the pins down. I mean, there's really no reason for him to get creative or screw with anything. He's got a ball that's looked good for him. He and he just kind of does what he does and makes the little adjustments to get the ball through the pins the right way, but he doesn't get very creative. And so that's the thing, is it's tough for him to have kind of an off week. But you kind of said the same thing, that your bad weeks are still 660, 670, so we're going to put pressure on him. And
pressure, constant pressure, I think, is realistically kind of how we got there to win the first half. And obviously we haven't talked about standings very much. We're currently in 8th and about 20 back in the lead, 19 back right now. So plugging up after a couple rough weeks to start. So getting along still. I mean, it's 17 weeks in the second half, and we pulled 3 of them. So there's still all kinds of time to, potentially make up ground. And I mean, it'd be really cool if we could finish top 5 both halves. I think that'd be setting that as kind of a goal of if we can finish top 5 both halves. I think that'd be pretty emphatic. So
yeah, I think it's just dope.
I think we'll get there.
Yeah, I think
I like our chances.
I think it's hard for us not to, unless we just happen to take everybody's best shot. I don't see us really. I don't see us maybe doing as well as we did in the first half, but I don't see us falling off.
Yeah, first half, I think we definitely hit at our ceiling versus we're taking kind of about a league average in points against right now. We were actually a little bit above league average in pinfall against last year. So it's it'll be interesting to see how it plays out this half. I think we definitely have the potential to do better, but I also it kind of feels like we dodged a bullet with Jerry's team last week. So kind of see how that plays out. Yes, I guess kind of looking ahead to tonight. Anything changing for you in the bag equipment wise? I'm guessing you haven't drilled anything.
No, I don't want. I haven't had a chance to get anything on film yet, and so I want to do that before I really integrate anything. And again, I think it's just kind of dumb to screw with the look I've had. I mean, Summit and ProMotion, even having a rough week against Rob a couple weeks ago, was still 650 something. So
yeah, and I was 650 on 5 and 6.
Yeah, when Rob also shot 650 and he's out
on what is on what is known to be probably one of the worst lefty pairs in the building.
Yeah. So I'm not broken up about that. And then last week, if I was probably a couple pieces of tape away from 760, 770, 780. So
easily. Yeah,
I mean, because all I would have had to do is shoot 220.
Yeah, and that was out there easily.
Yeah. So
yeah, for myself, I am thinking I might actually bring my nuclear cell tonight, just to kind of have something where I can take advantage of track friction a little bit more. Otherwise, I think the rest of my bag pretty much stays put. It'll be NV2er and top speed and plastic are obviously completely locked in, and then I don't know. It might be just kind of a pick 2 out of 3 between my Ethos, my Trend 2, and my nuclear cell. Just kind of depends on what I'm feeling when I go to actually pack up. But it'll be probably something in that realm, if I had to guess. So, have my benchmark ball, my big, fastish, rolly ball, and then a couple of balls for once they get a little more burnt up, or I need something to play the friction a little bit more. So, nothing crazy. Same overall concept. Yeah, Mercury, I have drilled an NV2 or Pearl. Is okay. I also have been too lazy to put fresh grips in it because I had to go down in grip size. So I'm kind of swimming in it right now, and it's not really a ball I feel like I need very much. So I've got it. It's actually back there on the rack behind me. So I don't know. I might take it again at some point, but I don't feel like I need it right now. Although I did shoot 297. Maybe I should bring it tonight. I'll have to pickle on that. But yeah, nothing crazy. Just same concept. Knock pins down. Try and have some fun. come back and do it again next week. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, this one I think, and Tennyson, they did bowl. They shot 2,700 last week on 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's actually fairly impressive.
So,
Storm
yeah,
Dog.
Yeah, I think that we're gonna have our hands full, and it depends on which. I think it really depends on which version of their team shows up.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think for us, we stay between 20. I mean, we have a pretty defined area that we stay between, and it really doesn't deviate that far.
Yeah, and we've got 2 sets under 26-16 in the last going back to week 4.
Yeah. So
that's pretty solid.
Yeah. Even if somebody has a down, like Noah shot 530, but we still shot 20,
and we still got there.
Whatever.
That's
so,
kind of constant pressure.
That's kind of how it's gone all year, and so I don't expect that to be any different.
Yeah. So yeah, should be a fun time, but till then I do got to pay the bills. So.
Yep.
Minor detail. It has been fun though, and I guess we'll be back at. Actually, no. So next week we actually don't have league.
Yeah, we don't have league next week, and so we will probably just
tournament.
Probably just hold off and do the recap, and so it'll be 2 weeks before we get back to the show, because they do the city tournament a little bit different. They just cancel leagues for a week and do it all in the evenings, and that way most teams, they don't bowl league. They just, well, I'm going to show up anyway, so we might as well just put teams together, and they usually get a pretty good turnout for the city tournament that way, instead of trying to have leagues and then have it on several different weekends and trying to figure out and arrange people for that. It works out a whole lot better for everybody, and the people that want a random week off get their week off. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I guess we'll be back on, what is that, February 1st for our next recap show.
Yep.
And if we do end up bowling city tournament together, I might stream it on my channel just for some giggles. So, but yeah, otherwise, thank you all for hanging out. It has been fun.
Yeah.
See you all next week.
And we will see you next time.
Or see you in 2 weeks.